welcome you all to session number 4 of the ICF talk show Take Wing. Interesting people, immersive conversations. Today's session is titled Long, Long Ago, and our host Ganesh will be talking to Priya Muthukumar. So over to you, Ganesh.
Thanks, Vivek, and thanks all of you for coming here. Thank you, Priya, for accepting our invitation and agreeing to be my guest today. It's lovely having you here, and I'm looking forward to a very insightful and a very happy conversation over the next 1 hour or a little more than that. So folks who are attending, all of us live in Madras, Delhi, Hyderabad, Pune, Bhopal, Guwahati, places like that. But our guest of the day lives in a very interestingly named place. The place where she lives is called Storypur. So it's not Ghazipur, it's not any other Pur, it's Storypur, the land of stories. So that's where she lives. And she's been living there for the last 8 years. And we're going to hear a lot about her journey, her thoughts, her work, her art, her craft, all of that today. So welcome again, Priya. Let me just read out a short intro about her. She is an obsessive learner, a book lover, mother of a teen, a passionate storyteller who delights in the simple pleasures of life. She tells stories of all kinds to all people, at all places. Her love for the art has taken her to schools, colleges, museums, parks, corporates, and even railway stations. I'm assuming you didn't mean taking a train journey, but you've actually told stories at a station, right?
Yeah, totally.
Right. Priya is a performance storyteller and the founder of Storypur. Also, she's translated around 12 books into Tamil. She writes sustainability stories for magazines. As a workshop consultant, she helps schools use storytelling in their teaching and learning processes. She teaches storytelling as a general elective subject at the National Institute of Fashion Technology, NIFT, Bangalore, where she's an expert faculty member. She also is the storyteller in residence at Lawrence High School, Bangalore. Lovely, rich credentials. So let me open with this question. How are you feeling today in your station in life, wherever you are today? How are you feeling about it overall, professionally, personally?
I couldn't hear you there. You.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat. Am I audible now? Yeah. So I'm saying, what are your thoughts about life and where you are today? How are you feeling about where you are today?
Firstly, thank you so much, everyone, taking time out to be here on a Sunday. Mr. Murigrad, Mr. Vivek, the others over there, and Mr. Ganesh for thinking about me and inviting me on board. And yeah, the intro is the same standard one, but the way you said it was so interesting. It made it sound even more interesting.
Thank you.
So if you ask me about my journey, a restless teenager in a middle-class family in Chennai. That's how I was, and my only goal in life was to impress my dad. My father was everything typical that, whatever my father said, if my father said, hey, Priya, go and join in that elocution competition, I'll be there. And he says, do this, I used to be there. So basically a very happy-go-lucky person. I just like to do things. So the usual turn of events when you finish class 12, you need to take up 2 courses. This was way back when this sounds really ancient though.
90s, must be somewhere in the 90s? Possibly.
Yeah, 90s, yeah.
Right.
So either MBBS or engineering, those were the 2 options.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So I couldn't get through medicine and I wasn't interested in engineering. So I managed to join a pharmacy college. I enjoyed it completely, as always, because when I'm into it, I just put my heart and soul, and there's so much of fun. Fun is a word I really like. So I loved chemistry. I loved pharmaceutical organic chemistry.
Okay.
And yeah, it worked in my favor. But once I finished my B.Pharm, that's where the actual challenge happened, because I realized that there weren't many openings at that time, except for marketing. I did work as a sales, as a medical representative, and that also was an eye-opener for me. I think I worked for around 3 companies in a very short stint, 6 months, 7 months. It was more like that.
Oh, I see.
But somehow at the back of my head, I always had imbibed this thing that there are opportunities everywhere. It's just that you need to pick that and make it work for yourself.
You need to spot them and go after them.
Yeah. Somehow I had kind of internalized that. And that's how Jet Airways, they had announced their walk-in interview. So it sounded so cool, at that particular point of time. I hadn't worn Western clothes. For the first time, I went shopping to buy Western formals. And there were around 700 people. And somehow I managed.
This was at the Ambassador Pallava, you said, no?
Yeah, totally.
Lovely hotel.
Yeah. So it was such a nice experience. The journey was very interesting, totally unusual. I had never flown in a plane, but I was getting to experience so many things around me, being in the Chennai airport. I learned a lot. Mm-hmm. And then another turn of event, I had to move to the Bangalore airport. Personally, I had to settle down in Bangalore. Mm-hmm. And then many things in the personal space. I was a mom then. So again, I was at home. I couldn't work in shifts. So that's when I came across this opening for DD News TV channel for news readers, English news. So then I thought, I can speak in English. I think I can read news also. So why not apply? But they were very clear. They said they wanted only bachelors or, unmarried single.
Okay.
And you should have done your Viscom or your Mass Comm degree.
Okay.
I thought, what am I going to lose? Let me just apply and see now. And it worked in my favor. And I went for the audition. I cleared the audition. So for a year, I worked as an English news reader.
Lovely. From the Bangalore DD Kendra, huh?
This is from Chennai. So I had to go from Bangalore to Chennai every month for my telecast. Which was around 6 slots. So they were also very accommodative. They gave everything together for me. 6 slots together. I finished it and then came back here. Used to come back here. So it was pretty good. But there came a time where everything came to a standstill, And because I was more a mother, I was taking that role a little seriously. And that's when I got this opportunity to join my daughter's school. She was in playgroup then. I had to fill in for someone else.
Okay.
So that was the real eye-opener. For 7 years, I worked as an educator, as a teacher in that place. And one fine day, I felt that somewhere we could use stories, more. We are not using it enough for some reason. I don't know. Suddenly, it was that blessed unrest, they say. I was really feeling unrest. I think I'm born very restless. So, I just left that job, and one Independence Day, that's 15th August 2013, I decided to have a storytelling session in our building terrace. So with the help of my husband, my kid, we just distributed posters and I started telling stories. And one by one things.
How many people turned up? Roughly how many turned up for that first session?
I think 7 of them. I think 5 of them were my friends. Okay.
So I'll just stop you here, Priya. We'll come to Storypur again, but I want to stop you here. So this realization that stories aren't being used enough in our instruction methods, right, in schools, was that gradual, and what fed that? Were there specific observations or instances you recall? Were there conversations you had with somebody else? How did that grow in your mind?
If you ask me, the trigger was actually, regarding with respect to environment and sustainability. So that was the trigger. Somewhere we are studying so much of this in our science, social studies, everything. But somewhere, then why are we goofing up so much? We're all educated people. So where is the actual lacuna? Where is the actual gap? Can there be a tool to fill that gap? And that's when storytelling came to my rescue.
Okay.
Then we can tell story like this. Then we can, and if you see most of our stories,
right,
be it Indian mythological stories, there is always a sustainability element which is kind of overlooked.
Yes.
Nobody will say that, this one went to the forest and he dumped the waste into the forest.
Right.
You will never come across something like that. So then it was that small, very thin thing I wanted to work on. And it kind of worked in my favor. So since then, I've been using stories. I've been telling all kinds of stories to all kinds of people, mythology, history, but I make sure to have one small pinch of environment.
Ecology and environment there.
Absolutely.
In fact, it's very interesting that you say, talk of mythology. Something that I've observed is many of those stories from that era, right? They don't tell us, in fact, they have a strong angle of consonance with nature, okay? Of leading a sustainable life, a simple life, or being congruent with nature and your immediate surroundings, right? But, interestingly and unfortunately, that is never the angle that is being picked up when those tales are told.
Yeah.
So those tales are told as mythology for religious reasons, for spiritual reasons, for various morals. But I haven't really heard the ecology angle also being driven across,
Yes.
Saying, hey, there is this angle also.
Yeah.
So I think you've latched on to a nice...
The coexistence part.
Yeah. Living in harmony.
The harmony. Beautiful. That's a lovely word. Exactly. We never touch upon that. Like very simple thing, the Ramayana, when the bridge was made, the squirrel, the monkeys, the bear, everyone. So that is a beautiful coexistence angle, which we tend to kind of overlook. So yeah, as you said, I work on those elements.
Lovely. So it's been 8 years now, right? 8 years and a month maybe, or just about 8.5 years.
Yeah.
I remember last month you celebrated your birthday.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. So, how have you evolved? I'm asking for a quick summary now before I will ask you more details. But from then to now, how do you feel? What has evolved and how has Storypoor grown?
From then to now, if you ask me something which I thought it's going to be a very niche thing. I need to really work hard when I'm going to be telling eco stories. I've kind of come a long way in the sense there is ecology, there is conservation, there is harmony in whichever story you tell. So when I tell a story about a fabric or a dye or a print, there again, sustainability comes. The water that we use, we can bring in sustainable fashion also. Right. So if you ask me, I'm more confident with respect to my brand, with respect to my work, with respect to my journey. But one thing which has remained the same, and I really like that part about the thing is, even now the picture appears hazy in the sense, if you tell me that confidence will not tell me like, oh, next year I'm going to be doing this. I won't be able to tell you that, because even now I need the pictures hazy. I need to go find out, it's that finding out that is that which makes things interesting for me. So it is like, I have a little bit of known and unknown. That's how Storypoor is right now.
And the element of not knowing also makes the journey very interesting.
Totally.
So I like that. And, that recalls another point you made to me when we spoke first. So, which is that, many of the enterprises, and when you look at startups also, you talk of vision and mission and a certain figure or a certain goal in mind, all of which is kind of set in stone. But you don't seem to be working that way. And that I find very interesting. Was it like that from the beginning? You've always tripped along the way? Have you?
Yeah, I think that's very much my personality. I like that part. That mystery element keeps me going. And see, mystery without any hard work, mystery without, then it doesn't work. Mystery with hard work and with that eagerness to resolve certain things, to solve the mystery. I think that is the thing, it has all fallen in place. That's what I feel.
So I think it's mystery with a little bit of purpose.
Yeah. Right.
So some part of the path is clear, some part, but there's also some fog. You don't mind that.
Correct. And it's also another thing comes to my mind, the very popular adage with jack of all trades, master of none. Now that, if you see, most of the times it is used with a little bit or more than a little, a negative kind of thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm the brand ambassador for that particular phrase. I can really tell you that. Because if I had gone into a career or a profession where I have to do similar things again and again, I don't know what would have happened to me.
You would have gone mad, I think.
Yeah. But right now, you see, I'm working with NIFT. I'm also working with St. John's.
St. John's.
With the St. John's people. So I need to work on that subject. I need to work on this. This is what keeps me going. I'm learning every time.
Right, right. So you have NIFT, you have St. John's, and then you have Lawrence, which is a school. So that's a different age set also, right?
Correct.
So it gives you a good mix, good variety.
Totally. Yeah. So I can reinvent myself every now and then. So that's what keeps me going.
So after that first terrace session, what did you do in terms of professionally taking this forward for the first 2 years? And then can you quickly tell us what are you today? Today, what does it look like? You know, who do you work with? Who do you serve?
Right. So after the terrace session, I think the one word that comes to my mind is consistency. Not that I had a great response, not that I had people, waiting for my session, nothing like that. For the next 2 years or so, I think it was the fourth Saturday of every month in one place. All the time there was a storytelling session.
Okay.
Crowd or not, I was always excited because I was working on a new theme. I had to think of a new theme. So somehow that consistency helped. People kind of felt that every fourth Saturday, whatever happens, Priya will be there. So we can just go. That really helped by word of mouth, things kind of spread. And literature festivals, small groups, organizations, melas, the Santes, markets.
Right. Flea markets.
Yeah. So everyone, there were a lot of, right now we have lockdown, but most of these markets were based on sustainability, environment, those products and all of that. Right. So that is the perfect place for me to tell stories like that. One after the other, then a tie-up with a school, and then many people reaching out to me saying, why don't you train our teachers, to tell stories in the schools? So that happened. And right now I'm also into business storytelling in professional spaces for brands and all of that. So it's one after the other. As opportunities happened, I started equipping myself for those. Okay. It is this and then that. It is like that. So if St. John's didn't happen, I wouldn't be taking my immunology book again. So it was like that. Because they called me, I started working on that. It is like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today you tell stories for children, for colleges, right? And in colleges for college students as well as for staff members, both?
Yes. No, I work on workshops with teachers, with the staff members, with the faculty of colleges, and with students extensively. It's more like a general elective program. So they are there with me, one batch with me for 2 or 3 months, where we talk about how you can use stories in different spaces, but with your voice, face, body language, various things, work on all that extensively. See, basically stories are there everywhere. When you make a Facebook post also, a little bit of storytelling is involved. Your Insta reel, storytelling is involved. Yeah, advertisements, media. So especially students who are eager to have their own startups or enterprises, they need to know how to kind of hone their storytelling skills. It's not that we have it. We just need to improvise on that.
Polish them.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I do with them. How to, kind of use it, how to make a sales pitch, how to make an elevator pitch. You're going to present your design, your product. So how are you going to introduce it? Things like that.
And then you have the corporate crowd or the business crowd also, right? Which is something that you added later.
Totally. That's fairly new for me. That's I did say 3 or 4 workshop sessions with them. How to use your storytelling skills in your workspaces when you talk to your team members, when you're creating a brand culture.
Right.
Does your brand stand for integrity? Does it stand for customer service, customer satisfaction? So those kind of stories you need to be telling. So scenarios where, the values or a purpose or the big picture of a company, of an organization have to be communicated to, the teammates. And possibly even in other applications like sales and, how do you do some work well? Can you fit in stories in practically every scenario? Yes, you can. Only thing is the difference between a story where I'm sitting in a cafe or in a bookstore and I'm telling, and a story which I'm going to be telling in a scenario like yours, which you said, kind of a formal setup, is it has to be brief. You need to incorporate facts in it.
Right.
And facts in it. And it need not be a dramatic performance as such.
Correct.
But you need to deliver what you intend to deliver.
You need to deliver the message, the kernel of the message.
Correct. So these are the things, it has to be short. So this is the thing.
There are these things about, questions and debates about, is everyone a leader, or are you born a leader or are you made a leader? Do you become a leader? Similarly, are you born an entrepreneur or do you become an entrepreneur? So I'm asking you, are we all born storytellers?
So
or do only some of us become storytellers along the way?
Actually, that also goes back to another thing. Are there stories everywhere? So first we need to understand that. Just sit in your office canteen, college canteen, and you just listen. You'll see that, say, for example, someone says, hey, you know what, I missed my bus, so I came late, so I'm 15 minutes late and my physics ma'am asked me to wait outside. I didn't finish my assignment. Now that is a story, right? Once upon a time, I went and sat in the bus. That's the first part of your story. The bus, what happened? It was late. So that is your conflict. That's the second part of your story.
Right.
Finally, I reached the classroom. That's the third part of your story where your problem is solved.
Your resolution.
Resolution. So these are the three important components. When we talk itself, we always use these three components. When we think, we use these. So there are stories around us everywhere. Right. In fact, there is one very cliched one, but it's everyone uses this. Almost all storytellers say this, and I believe it totally. We have storytelling, story listening wired in our DNA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how our forefathers were listening and telling stories as hunters and gatherers. They wanted to caution people. There's a man-eater, there's a tiger over there. How do I tell that? How do I warn my people? The wise people in the community sat around the fire and they told a story. And the story will have this warning, this caution. Right. So then again, we moved into an agricultural setup, civilization. Okay, now we needn't be worried about these dangers and all that because we're growing our own crops. We are not roaming around.
Now it's a far more settled life.
Settled life. But we have a Maharaja, we have a king, a Nawab and all of that. We should live in harmony. So we need to have some rules, values, virtues, those kind of stories came. Now, that part is also taken care of. Now, we have a king to take care of us, king, queen. No more dangers, those kind of dangers. We have some time for entertainment, for leisure. So stories are with music, with dance, around all these lighter things, fun.
Right.
Yeah. So then slowly, if you see, along with humankind, stories have also been with us, but they have evolved.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are stories everywhere. If there are stories everywhere, and if we have been telling stories all the time, aren't we all storytellers? A storyteller need not be a person who stands up on the stage.
Correct.
No, we are all telling stories.
And like you said, we are all living in the midst of stories. We are all part of stories. It's just a question of noticing that we actually tell stories every day. We probably don't pick that up,
Exactly. Yeah. The last line which you said, when I talk about something called as a story bank, where we need to collect stories and keep, when I talk about brand storytelling, this is the line which I say, we just need to be more observant. We just need to listen. There are stories around us all the time. When your team member says that, my father was not feeling well. I had to take him to the hospital, but I've hospitalized him, but I came to work. That's a story of dedication.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are when you pass on these stories, that's where the culture of a brand, I was telling you, that kind of emerges or evolves, things like that. Okay.
Okay. So differences between your different audiences. All right. So key differences, one is your putty little kiddo crowd. Tiny tots or, early schoolers or middle schoolers or whatever. And then you have the college crowd. Then you have the business crowd, the adult crowd, right? So predominantly, what would you say are some differences?
So one thing is obviously story might be the same. You can tell the same story to all the three groups, but the way you say is going to be different. So that's where my homework comes. So the toddlers, preschoolers, they are more into visual stuff. So you use a lot of props and colors.
Visual cues.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the first. This is the youngest group I'm telling. The nursery, LKG kind of. 1 and 2 and their primary, if you see, they're slightly older. It's not a must. You have to bring in so much of visual aids because there you need to let them imagine a tree which is purple according to them. Fine, it is purple according to you. So there I'm not going to interfere with their creativity. So there what we will do, I will cut down on the visual thing and I'll focus more on the language because there the language, the phonics, expression, pronunciation, that's what they're learning. So they will draw parallels. So that's my primary crowd. Somewhere the end of primary and middle schoolers, if you ask, I want them to think. So I kind of give them like, okay, this is the story, and I forgot the name of the story. What do you think can be the name of the story? So they like that. And then right now my head is full of Onam and Krishna Janmashtami stories. So I've been telling so many stories over there. Yeah. So if you ask me Krishna Janmashtami or Onam, for example, Mahabali story and all of that, when we tell, so they will, one kid was very upset. No, when I said Krishna Janmashtami story, Krishna carried the Govardhan Parvat with his finger. It had rained so much. Because he said, ma'am, rains, all this happens because of hurricanes. What are you telling us? Because of Indra was upset. See, there is a scope for debating.
Yes. Yeah. And so for clarification.
Exactly. And he is not ready to take what I'm telling whole hog. Yes. And I'm so happy with that.
Yeah.
So we are.
Because the child is now thinking, the child is questioning.
Exactly. So this is what so my word is not the final word. It never is. But here it is even more evident. Yeah. I like your story, but hey, you know what? This can't be true. That kind of a thing. So the thinkers are in. Then we come to middle and high schoolers. I bring in a lot of reality. I talk about what's happening around me. It could be a mythological story. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. We did this, what is that? Kalya Mardan of Krishna.
Yeah, Kalya Mardan.
Those days, Kalya had poisoned river Yamuna. But today, why our lakes are looking so poisonous? Can we go drink water from the lakes here in our city? So that's where, obviously, right? So that's when we do our brainstorming. Why we can't drink? Because there are plastic covers, ma'am. Because I can see soap bubbles, ma'am. Okay, who put all those things there? So the next question would be like people. And who are the people? Then it's us. So then we bring it down to action, how we can do from our own spaces like that. When it moves on to college, it is slightly more intense. We talk about gender neutrality. We talk about, not intense is not the word. We look at other topics as well.
And more mature topics. More nuanced topics. Right.
Yeah. And with the adult audience, it's very different. Now I can talk about sadness. I can talk about melancholy. I can talk about various other things, day-to-day things. So it's like that. And with adult, obviously, I cut down on the drama. Correct. I play with the words more. So
I'm assuming that in a business kind of scenario, if you had a lot of drama, they would also think that it's watering down the whole thing, right? They would rather that there's a good balance between a little bit of that storytelling element, but also, please, can you come to the message, right?
Correct. You can kind of get the attention. I mean, who doesn't like a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of song? You can get the attention in the beginning, but it's always better to avoid this kind of dilution. Yeah.
Right. So we discussed debates and, questioning from the audience, right? And as you said, you leave certain things open, and depending on what is appropriate for the age, you also start giving them the leeway to question, and to take discussions and all that. What about cynicism? Are you also seeing cynicism? And if you do see it in certain pockets, how do you as a storyteller move through that, navigate that? Cynicism is very different from, you get what I mean, right? Not about, it's not open-minded thinking or questioning. It's about just blocking. And do you find that? How do you navigate that?
Okay. Frankly speaking, top of my mind response will be, there has been a little bit of initial resistance. Hey, what? Even my people used to tell. My grandmother also used to tell stories. I need to pay and I need to come and attend a storytelling session. So that has always been there. But that is where the actual challenge lies, or that's where the actual power of stories or storytelling lies. The first 5 minutes, when you understand your audience, when you keep going on the stage, when you have been interacting with groups, so what happens is you can feel the pulse of your group. Are they there?
Are they with you?
Are they with me? Are they going to like this? Are they going to resist what I'm going to say? So you understand and you bring in a fine balance. But most of the time, Ganesh, I must be very honest here, by the end of the session, there is a change of mind. Initial resistance has always been there, but there's always been a change of mind towards the end. And that has to do with the power of stories.
Correct. The dynamics of stories, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we didn't know about it. Most of the time it ends like that. Oh, we didn't know about it. Because I've had challenging groups. I have one particular group of very experienced, very senior people. I feel nervous. I do feel anxious in front of crowds like that. But when you just move on, it's a lot to do with emotional connect. That's the primary aspect of storytelling.
Correct. Yes.
It does not mean that I have come prepared with my notes. You are ready or not, I will deliver it. No, that's not the way it is. It should not be my need. It should be both ways.
Yes,
so I need to feel the pulse. I need to tweak it in between, and I need to deliver it accordingly. So when the emotional connect is established, I think criticism, cynicism, the resistance, slowly kind of...
all those melt away.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it has been so far.
Correct. So it's partly about reading the audience, reading and being in tune with the pulse of the audience, and making those small changes perhaps to your approach, probably thinking on the spur of the moment, and also the dynamics of the story, the power of the story, right? So they'll carry the day for you.
Right. That's how it's been for me.
Yeah. In a professional context, so startups, adults generally, and especially in the business context, now, let's say that most storytellers are not equipped with formal business credentials, qualifications, experience, right? But there is a need and you've been approached. Can you help with something? Can you help communicate this particular message? So is that, I find, possibly peculiar to only those audiences. It may not be with other audiences. Do you encounter that? How do you gear up, prepare yourself before you walk into that room to win their respect, first of all?
Okay. I do a lot of homework. I just check in the sense like who my audience are, their age group, from which background they're coming, which background they belong to, that kind of a thing. If it is an organization which is asking me why the organization has approached me, what is it they want at the end of the day, at the end of the session, I'm very clear about that. And I also tell them, this is what I can do. This is something like, for example, there was one group, one software startup company, which wanted me to help them out with their slides, their presentations, PPT. I said, my expertise lies in storytelling. I'll tell them how to help. But if you ask me specifically, I won't be able to nail that particular area. So this kind of honesty has really helped. I never made, otherwise I can't sleep well. It's more like that. I promise something and I don't deliver it. It's more like that. So I try and understand. I work a lot back and forth. And forth. What exactly is your need? Like right now, I'm working with a medical organization, and we are trying to do something on an endemic about a disease. Now that needs a lot of preparation. I need to study about vaccines. I need to study about the particular disease, the symptoms. So much of work goes into it. Then you give a rough draft. They look into it. They say, hey, add this. Don't do this.
Right.
That's how it goes.
So it's a very collaborative, iterative process.
Yeah. Based on needs, totally based on needs. Yeah. So that has helped.
After 8 years now, right, in Storypur and this kind of evolution and growth, what would you say? Is it happily possible? Is it somewhat easily possible? Is it very difficult to be a full-time professional storyteller and also earn a decent income in a place like India?
Yeah, actually, thank you for asking that question, because there have been several newspapers who have interviewed me, media guys, and at the first level, it is very difficult for someone to believe that, this is your profession. Either this must be your hobby or your part-time job, or your husband must be earning really well. It's that they've asked
me. You guys really don't need this money.
So yeah, you're just taking it. So I must say, with a lot of gratitude, a little bit of pride also, that storytelling has not just given me satisfaction and happiness, it also gives me my bread and butter, right? So because I'm tied up with so many organizations, see the schools and all of that, and this is a very evolutionary process.
Right.
As an art form itself, it's still evolving. It's not like these jobs, these professions which are there, there's MBBS, there's engineering, it's done, you will get a salary. No, it's still in that phase in that nascent stage, where it's evolving time and again. Correct. And people organizations themselves are finding out, we can use storytelling.
We can do this,
we can have a storyteller on board. So that's how it's worked in my favor. I wouldn't say it's very easy, because it's growing at this pace. It's a lot of trial and error from the organizations as well as from the person who takes this up as a profession. It's a lot of trial and error. You need to keep reinventing yourself. You need to find that what works for you, what does not work for you. And there is no rule book or anything where you say, hey, this is the way you should do storytelling. No. So this could be one of the ways. When I do workshop also, I've told people, this has worked for me, guys. Probably you can try it. This may work for you, or you will find out your own way. So I wouldn't say that it is super easy, super happy, but ready to experiment. Then it's fine.
And give it some time, right? Just go, be consistent, keep chipping away. And it takes you a few years, to stabilize and, to find your groove. And from then you start growing better and better, I'm assuming, right?
And yeah, absolutely. You said it for me.
And the kind of collaborations, I think the choice of partnerships and who you work with, that's also critical, the quality of those partnerships.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm telling you. Those guys are also not to be blamed, because they are also trying out something new. So when you partner, when an organization approaches me, this has happened to me so many times, they really don't know what to expect from me.
Correct.
They really don't know how a storyteller can actually help also many a times. So because nobody knows, we're still trying out. Probably down the line, another 10 years or so.
10 years more.
10 years. I can expect this from a storyteller if I hire her or him. So it's in such a nascent stage, I would say.
So this brings me to another question I wanted to ask you. How do you, which means that you're still in the concept selling stage, correct? For your it's still nascent, and you have to educate, you have to explain, and you have to tell them, look, this is what I can do for you, correct?
Correct.
What does that involve? And for different audiences, how do you go prepared? What is your spiel to them?
Okay. So with respect to schools or educational institutions, it's fairly kind of easy, I must say.
Easier to understand.
Because they have, I think by now they have understood the significance of narrating a story, how it works with respect to a child's literary skills, spoken English, connecting, emotional connect. They know that, because I think it's part of the pedagogy. It's part of what they learn as teachers and people up there.
Okay.
So that is nice. So fairly, it's okay. Like the colleges which I'm working for, it's first time of sorts. Even now, students call me personally before taking up this subject. Ma'am, what is storytelling? Will you teach us how to tell story? So I need to tell, this could be possible. This also could be possible. So people don't know. So this is what I tell 100 times more than that also. I explain, because nobody knows. We're all trying things. together.
Yeah.
And with respect to organizations, most of them, I think they are also, to an extent, they're getting familiar. How to make a pitch, how to introduce my product, how to connect with my teammates, with my employees, how to convey a certain message, how to pass on my brand values.
Values, yes.
Yeah, product story, vision, and things like that. So this is how. So when they ask me, I work on that and they give it. I deliver it. So it's more or less like this as of now. The scene is.
So you're saying the awareness in the corporate or the organization level is increasing. It's getting better and better.
Definitely.
And it's there to a fair extent already.
Yeah. No, it's increasing, you can say. Fair extent, I would say, in the educational part.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Right. How much, is storytelling different from writing stories? After all, they're the same story, correct? So can you give us a glimpse into how the craft, some nuances of how the craft differs? So let's say you have the same episode, you're going to, some particular story. It's already been written in some book, could be mythology, could be anything. But when you say or tell the same story, do you have, as a storyteller, more leeway? Can you expand on certain parts? How do those dynamics work?
Okay.
You don't have the limitation of a word count. You don't have the limitation of page size. You can move around. So how does a storyteller, are these real advantages, or what else are some of the differences between the written form and the oral form?
I think both have their own, plus and minus. Where you will be surprised. Last week, I did a workshop for a group, and one of the participants was an author, and he asked me the same question: what is the difference between writing a story and telling a story? And at that point of time, I said, I really don't know. And both of us figured out an answer together. So frankly speaking, if you see writing and telling story, the same plot is there, the same story arc is there. Once upon a time, conflict and conflict resolution.
Right.
Of course, there are many layers to it, like, introducing the characters, the description, while writing as well as telling. While telling, you need to be on your toes. You need to be a little spontaneous. That's where your crowd presence comes, your audience. You keep the audience in mind. Yeah. So I know that there in the last row, 4 of them are sitting with their mobile phones. Okay, I'm losing it somewhere. So I need to throw a hook. So I make a sound or...
Thankfully, not a chalk.
No. Don't do that. No. So those are the cues where a storyteller needs to, be alert and bring in those twists and turns. With respect to writing, I think there you have your time and all of that to write. The second thing is storytelling has to do with how you deliver it, your presentation, your face, your hands. Are you going to be walking on the stage? Are you standing in one place? Are you going to be walking around? All these factors count. So these are the differences I feel. With respect to writing, I think, again, I'm not a writer much. I think you'd be able to tell that, you need to have your own tools to keep your readers hooked,
Yes. That's true.
I think basically they're the same, but the way you deliver it, I think there are...
Yes. Also, like I said, so in writing, frequently what happens is word count is a limitation, right? That really is a big factor to be considered in practically any form of writing, unless it's really long form. But in most other forms, yes, word count, number of pages. So there is always that weighing on a writer's mind, number one. Number two is, it is, after all, one-way traffic when you're writing, right? I can't see my reader. I don't know what their reaction is going to be. They're not in front of me. There is no way for the reader to communicate their response, reaction, questions, whatever that is, to the writer. So those are some of the other differences. That freedom, oral storytelling definitely offers you, and that little bit of dialogue also as and when required.
Yeah.
Right.
We get to talk. And if you ask my storytelling session, I really draw energy from my audience. If I see my audience or my listeners are super energetic, then I want to give them more.
Correct.
And if I see them, they are the crowd that they are just listening to you, then I don't have much control. I kind of try to match theirs, align my energy with theirs. My story is also pretty mellowed down.
So your energy and mood, you marry that with the mood and energy of the audience.
Actually, many of us are like that. And that's why the shift to online was such a huge challenge for many of us. It is. If you ask me, I would still say offline is the best, because for many of us, it's like that. Absolutely. We draw energy from our listeners. It's back and forth.
Correct. They draw energy from you. You draw energy from them. It's a wonderful loop,
Yeah, and it hurts to every time to say, especially when you're telling stories to children, please turn off your videos.
Yeah.
Please mute yourself. Oh, that's so unfair, I feel, but we have to. I do that.
And let's really hope that we all get back to offline sessions. Yeah, maybe give it another year or so. But I think I really want, by 2022 by summer of that year, that we really get back into our old modes of communication, of grouping together, of feeding off each other's energy. It's great fun, yeah. Those vibes can't be matched.
Totally, yeah, totally, yeah.
Acha, when I look around today, so I'm in the storytelling space, but I'm not a professional oral storyteller. So, but I'm a curious and a very interested observer of this space. I find that many storytellers have emerged in India in the last 7 years, 8 years, right? Possibly at the outside, maybe a decade. I find, while I'm happy about it, and I think more and more storytellers should emerge, there are so many more stories and so many contemporary applications of stories, right? Not just mythology and old world. So there are so many more newer themes and, the connections and all that. But is it also a thing of new bottle, old wine? Is there somewhere a sense of elitism? Some kind of elitist bubble that I'm seeing being formed? These are some things that disturb me. I don't have answers. I want to hear from you.
Okay. No, the second part of your question, I didn't understand. Elitism in the sense?
Elitism as in, it's a glamorous thing now. It's a shiny new toy in town. It's fancy to do this. It's fancy also for the parents to send their children. So all sorts of those. Therefore, what happens, and I'm noticing it in some pockets, it may not be universally true, but where is the rootedness in all this? And are we really drawing stories from the soil, from our earth, from really, are we grounding our stories well enough?
Well, I don't know, Ganesh, because with respect to everything that emerges, I think there's something like this also happens and we settle down, right? So yeah, I understand what you mean to say. It may appear as a sudden fad, my kids are attending a storytelling session. We have been telling stories all the while. Well, I really don't know. There is a possibility of, what you're saying, and I am able to relate to that also. If you ask me, remembering why we are going to be telling a story, eventually at the end of the day, that's what counts. It really counts. And not just storytelling, it might sound like a lot of gyan. And I am just 8 years old of storytelling I have behind me. But frankly speaking, with respect to any art form, if you do not do it from here, it's always a soul-to-soul connection. Correct. Affects you. It affects the quality of your work, and it affects the skill, and it's not fair to the people who are listening to you.
Absolutely.
So that is something which many of us go by. Because there have been times when I have felt, I could have done this a little better. I shouldn't have chosen this story. There have been times, but I couldn't, because I was given this topic by so-and-so people. I didn't find any other story. My deadline is here. I chose it, but it has shown on my face and my body language, and it doesn't sit with you, So I don't know. I think most of us are experimenting with a lot of I just read that message. I have a badge that says "Stories tell us what is important." Yeah, thank you for that. That's true. So somewhere, I don't know. I'll just stick to what
So I think I hear you, Priya. I hear you. I think
yeah, I'm not
it
able
all
to.
comes from why are you telling stories, right? And staying true to that purpose, to that intent, correct? And if you're able to do that, then you do your bit. That's what you're saying.
Totally. Because, earlier I used to be, I'll tell you, I told you I was a very restless teenager. I really wanted to change that world because you're watching so many of those films, no? You imbibe the character of the protagonist. You think you are the person who's been created to change the world. I lived in the world like that. I said, wait till I become 30 or 20. I am going to be that woman. I'm going to bring social justice and all of that. But now that I understand that all that's fine, but just fine tune that energy, fine tune that thing. Do whatever you are doing, just give your bit. That's the reason why I started Storypur also. I'm not going to be giving gyan, but I'm just going to be reminding people here and there. That's all. And I will make sure that I lead a life where all these things are there, because you don't follow, then that doesn't work, right?
Correct.
So yeah, so these are the things which I go by. And luckily, it has worked for me.
Lovely. Happy for you. See, you work with an audience for 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever that duration is, and you work with themes. You tell stories. So stories open their eyes. Stories open their windows. All right. Do stories ensure lasting change? How can you, if at all a storyteller can, how can you ensure that it leads to lasting change? What support do you need from other factors, you as a storyteller, to ensure this?
Okay. So one thing, if you ask me, especially if I'm going to be telling stories to different groups and I'm just going to be moving away, I'm not even going to be meeting the kid or the individual later. So all that I have is that 45 minutes.
Absolutely. Right.
So I'm going to be giving my best. That's what I strive for. Okay.
Right.
It could be a message about integrity. It could be a message about acceptance, anything. Right. So I give my best. Right. And we have discussion. Now, there's something which, again, I believe in. It should not be my story. It should be your story also. The story should belong to you. That's why I stop the story. I do not give the moral of the story, or I do not give an end. And I will say, if you were the character, what would you have done? If something like this happened to you, somebody bullied you, what would you have done? Are you going to be a bystander? Are you going to be like this? So I try my best to help the person internalize that story. It's no longer mine. It's yours as well.
Right.
You are in that situation.
Correct.
So that helps to an extent, I would say. Because you won't forget it that easily, because ma'am made me talk. I gave this answer, and then Rahul said this. So there's a whole lot of things. We are all in the same wavelength at that point of time. So that really helps. Lasting change means, I think, if someone could repeat the story, or someone, probably the entire family had come, they discuss the story at home, then it has more impact. Otherwise, you just have the faith in the story that it works.
Right.
Many a times, when we tell stories which are open-ended, we have that faith in the story. Now the kid might not understand, but when a similar situation happens,
and they encounter that situation, they will remember this.
Comes back to you. That's exactly. So that is one thing. That's it. Just leave the story as it is. It will work. I don't think we need to kind of structure it as to, how you can repeat the story. Just leave it. Have the faith, and just, as long as the story is told effectively.
Right. So I get the sense that from being that teenager who wanted to change the world, you now focus on, miniature impact. You just focus on the 10 people sitting in front of you and, doing a good job in that time and making sure that you've seeded the lesson in their minds well. Correct? Is that?
You're right, Ganesh. But I try. I try because that's what I'm telling you. 10 years ago, I would have been very strong. I'm doing it. I'm sure it's going to happen. No, right now, I've kind of mellowed down. I have faith in myself. I have faith in my story. And I leave it to my listeners. Yeah. If they want, they will take it. If they want, they leave it. Each one of us is intelligent. We all have our own intelligences. So it is more of that. I do it and I leave it.
What are some of your signature storytelling elements in terms of, we spoke of the purpose, you come with that intent, but beyond that, so what makes Priya, the storyteller, different? What is something special to you?
I think the energy which I bring in, I really become a little hyper when I tell a story. So that's one thing. And that intent to share what I've got. So I'm not a musician. I'm not a dancer. I've not learned anything as learned. But, for a story's sake, if I'm telling a story in Malayalam, I don't speak Malayalam, but I would have learned those 3 or 4 lines with so much difficulty. I make sure I use it and I make sure that we all sing along. It's like that. So those are the vibes, So that is my signature style. Every time I like to experiment. Sometimes I play the drum.
Okay.
Basic. So I play the drum. Then I have props and then I include my audience. Then I say, if I'm the Maharaja, who's going to be the Maharani in the audience? So that kind of thing I do a lot. Coordination and all of that. So, those are the elements which I generally use. I work a lot with my voice and face, especially now that it's online. Otherwise, I'm more the walking around.
The mover, are you?
Yeah, totally. My hands also. Yeah, it's very difficult. Even now online to keep my hands like this and do is very difficult inside that box. So my hand will be going like this.
Yes. So isn't that a real challenge? And I mean real challenge. Because a lot of it depends on how much of you they can see.
Totally.
So what do you do? I mean, there's no full solution to it, is it? Is there?
Full solution, I don't know. I've managed to compensate for that. That's why I started adding, having music, a little bit of music.
Okay.
All those things. I tried arranging books and keeping my laptop on top and standing and doing that. But somewhere things were fizzling out. It was not getting, because I was tense, something will fall down. Someone said, oh, ma'am, your hand is getting cut, ma'am. So all those things were happening. So I thought, okay, let me accept the reality. Acceptance is a huge stress buster. I accepted. This is online. This is how it's going to be. Let me try out something else.
And I will do my best within this framework.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
What next for you in your tripping along? How much of fog are you seeing? How much of a clear path are you seeing? What do you think you will want to do in the next 2 years?
Okay. If you ask me, this is one question, Ganesh. Thank you for asking me. All those who've been asking me this question, because I told you, I'm not the planner kind of person. I know. So because of that, I had to really think. And when
which is why I'm qualifying my question by saying, what would you want to do? What would you like to try? All of that. So,
no. Thank you for asking. It's good, So if you ask me, I have a broader vision. If you had asked me why I started Storypool, the story that had only sending messages related to nature, community, those kind of things. Now, if you ask me, plus, in addition to that, I want to take storytelling as a skill, as an art form into various professional spaces. Be it architecture, be it medicine, be it wherever, software, IT. Storytelling is such a human concept and we are all human beings, right?
Yes.
We need it in whichever space we are. Storytelling is going to be such a wonderful tool. We need to harness that is what I feel. If you ask me, I think that's my broader thing which I have for myself, vision I have for myself, storytelling in different spaces, professional spaces. So, I'm planning to work towards that.
Lovely. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. I think, yes, there is a lot of potential to do that. And if you're saying that in the organizational context, business context, there is some amount of awareness today, I think there is so much more that you can do in the other fields, where if you were to just take up the onus and educate or guide people, ABC, these things can be done, I think people will latch on over a period of time.
Totally, totally. A lot of people are doing that. A lot of storytellers in various ways with respect to history. History is no longer, I know of people who are working on bringing, the stories of freedom fighters as a storytelling format, not as a book or a movie, oral storytelling. And it's so nice. I did the story of Vausi, freedom fighter from Tamil Nadu. So the whole idea is to humanize, even medicine for that matter of fact. They St. John's approached me for this, for humanizing the whole idea of why a stethoscope was invented. And the person who invented the stethoscope also was like you and me. He had his challenges, but that's the need of the hour. So when I tell the story, you won't look at the steth like that. There is a certain emotional connect, and those facts and remain much better because there's an impact. And I saw a message right now. Mental illness, totally. Many people are working a lot with respect to stories, storytelling in that space also.
Correct. In fact, extending that, I would love to see more and more stories, and I'm saying there's a lot of power there, potential there, in gender issues of sexuality, identity, and these are hotbeds of discussion and debate and confusion today, and discrimination. So I think storytelling can be a healer in these areas.
Totally. Yeah, there is work going on in that. That reminds me, Ganesh. So when there's a lot of, it looks like, it's a very breezy kind of a thing, but there's a lot of responsibilities associated with being a storyteller because you're giving things out. So your upbringing, your prejudices, your opinions are all getting wrapped in the form of a story, and it's being given out. And when you say storytelling is such an impressionable art form, it's so impactful, you need to be very watchful about what you say and what you deliver. Like, for example, with respect to gender stereotyping, there's so many stories which say, my mama's kitchen. But today, you see, it's no longer, there are men who cook. There is a lot of hand-holding happening.
Yes.
So we need to be watchful about that. Pink is for girls
and blue is for boys. Bunkum. Nonsense.
All that we need to be. Gender neutrality we need to bring in. We need to be careful when we tell stories like that.
Yes. And also, Priya, can I just interrupt you? Sorry, not really interrupting, but building on what you're saying. I think advertisements and cinema, literature and stories are also beacons for the future. They should also guide the way. Correct. They do have that role also. It's not just about mirroring what is happening today. So if you were to look at it from that point of view, why not communicate progressive ideals, progressive scenarios through stories?
Absolutely. Once someone very beautifully pointed it out. It's a very small thing. I have this habit of saying, guys, hey guys. So beautifully, this person pointed it out and she said, you are referring only to one particular gender. When you say guys, when you say mankind, so, small corrections, humankind, because it's such a powerful thing, when you talk to so many people. So be watchful about what you say.
A lot of unconscious biases, just have to be careful.
Totally. Our own personal prejudices.
Correct.
Yeah, that shows up.
Okay, now let's talk about your work as a translator. So, for folks here, Priya has also translated 8 or 9 books, if I'm right, getting the number
12
right.
books.
12 books from English into Tamil. And that's what I want to hear from her now about. Tell us, Priya, so how did you become a translator? What kind of books are these? And, who are they for?
So actually, if you ask me, there are people who have done so much of work in the translation space. Mine, if you ask me, because of storytelling, the then editor of Pratham Books, Mala Kumar, she approached me.
I know Mala. Okay.
So she approached me and asked me whether I can give it a shot. It wasn't easy for me. I thought translation is very easy. My second language was Tamil. It's children's book.
And that's your mother tongue.
Level 2 readers. But you know what? There's a lot of thinking that goes into translation also. Because when the author would have written, the writer would have written a story, say, for example, he's written about aloo paratha, because that was his context. But my book in Tamil is going to go to the villages in Tamil. They don't know what aloo paratha is. So using, taking a little bit of liberty in consent with your editor and the writer, because probably he or she had something else in mind when she chose aloo paratha. So these were small things, but significant things which had to be
correct.
Mind so that the actual essence of the story, it is his or her creativity. Okay, I should make sure that it is given as such. But at the same time, it has its own, reach.
Yeah, and you have to contextualize that for the audience you're writing for, you're translating for.
Correct.
In fact, that can make a big difference, in terms of how much they bond with the story or how much they feel distanced. Just the wrong example can put them off, or they may not relate so much.
Yeah. Example and even jokes.
Right.
If there is a joke in English, my God, you cannot, it's lost when it comes to another language. At least I've had that. So then you have to find an equivalent for that.
Yeah, true. Cultural equivalent for that.
So things like that. But it has been a wonderful journey so far. Just 12. Looking forward to do more.
So what did you do when you encountered these nuances? Because you were not a professional or experienced translator at some point of time, right? So did you take help? Did you speak to someone from people living in Tamil Nadu or native Tamil speakers, or what would you do? What are your tools?
See, one thing which I did is I used to read it out to several other people, folks at home, my father. I will just read it out to, how does it sound? Does it sound like a translation? I don't want it to sound like, that, and there used to be these earlier days, where Hindi serials used to come on TV and they used to be translated word to word. And it was such a, we used to make fun of it. It used to be like that. It should not be like that was my intent. And that's everyone's intent as well. It should kind of flow nicely. How it is in English, that's how it should sound in any other language.
Right.
So I kind of read it out to people. And another thing is I'm a storyteller, right? So I have different groups of people. So I kind of narrate it out to them and see how does it kind of sound. Are they picking up this? When I used a big word like this proper Tamil word, were they able to understand these things? I try it out, and then it goes to the editors, people over there, extremely helpful. Too many people over there, they kind of say, hey, this doesn't work. That's how we kind of worked on a book.
This kind of work should sound like a properly remade film and not like a dubbed film, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you said it.
And what kind of themes have you explored so far in the books that you've translated? What were they about?
See, these are all children's books. One book was a STEM book, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's about laughter, about a kid worried about that really did well, about why she's so upset. Everyone is telling her always laughing all the time. So laughter is not a bad thing. What is the science behind, laughing? That kind of a book. So there it was a little challenging because you had to translate words like of muscles and, things like that.
Okay.
That was a little challenging. Others have all been, fun stories, folk tales, that kind of books, simplified ones, simple ones.
But it's a good, it complements your storytelling, but also gives you some variety, right? Because it's a different craft.
Correct. Totally.
The same thing, but in a different form.
Yeah. Where my storytelling skills helped was every time before I send it to my editor, I will try it out with several groups.
Somebody else.
Yeah. So I used to narrate the story and see. So that gave me a good hang of things.
What's been the rub-off of your profession of storytelling on your children? Do you have children? You have.
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned you're a mother. So what has been the rub-off? What have been the conversations that you might have had with them on this?
I have a teenager, so and I'm known for my gyan. So, and all of my gyans have a story in that. It's like, ayo, amma, enough. It's like that. So with my husband, it's very nice. When I find an interesting story, there are certain stories which are a little philosophical, a little spiritual, very short ones, like Sufi stories, Zen stories. I really look forward to telling it to him and, kind of, oh, wow, that kind of thing. That's about it, pretty much about it. When I come across an interesting story, I just share it with my daughter. I hope it is.
Are they showing inklings, of any inclination of following in your footsteps? Anything at all for this age?
Only one daughter I have, and no, I don't see. Probably she will use it in her design.
In her profession.
Yeah, in her profession. With my husband, I think he uses some of my stories in his workspace. I know that he has used it in his presentations and all of that.
Did he pay you for that?
No.
You should charge him, yeah. Send him your bill.
Yeah, there. So, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, when he asks also, I kind of search for certain stories, when they have their workshops, team building in his company, in his factory. So I help him out with stories.
So when you look at the Indian storytelling collective today, and in all these applications and for the various audiences that we discussed, what more would you like to see happen?
Okay. One thing is there is still a kind of an impression that storytelling is, it's not kind of a profession. You get it?
It's not solid enough to be a profession.
Yes, people still take you lightly. People still take the profession lightly. It is a profession. We are getting paid for it. We work a lot. Yeah, and we do have our set boundaries and limitations. I think I would like to see that. There are so many people who just, I know there are stories everywhere, but to pick the right one, to work on it and to deliver, it means there is a lot of preparation and hard work that goes. And
skill.
Skill, correct. So, that is one thing and I'm sure it will change.
Yeah.
So many storytellers, upcoming storytellers who are doing some amazing job, they're trying out different things in different spaces. So, yeah, I would really look forward to see that, storytelling as a profession. Yes, you can earn your living through storytelling.
Yeah,
yes.
And it is solid, something meaty, right? Something of consequence, right?
Yeah. So it's more like a default profession. You just want to try out something, then that's how people think. It's not like that is what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
So yeah. So that's what I would like to see that happening, considered as a proper profession where you make your living.
So how do you ensure, when we spoke last week or whatever, we spoke of the brand-related conflict or some sort of issue that you would face in the market, right? And how you're not naturally a business person, but over a period of time, you've woken up to these issues. You're taking cognizance. You understand, okay, these are some threats. I need to be more alert. I need to take, precautions. So tell us something about that. What are some of the threats you're open to as a storyteller? And when you're trying to found and grow a professional outfit?
So, see, this is how it happened to be when I started 8 years ago. I just thought opening a Facebook page is enough. You just continue to do your work, put pictures on it, and then, you're all sorted. No, it has to be given that weightage, that the importance of any startup or any, you as an entrepreneur, you need to give that importance to yourself first. Only then the others will look at it that way. So that's something which I learned the hard way. If you ask me for people who are trying out storytelling, if you're very serious about it, please get started the professional way. Get your brand, your logo, whatever, trademarked, registered, as a proper startup. Those days I used to feel even uncomfortable to call myself as a storytelling company. I used to say storytelling venture. So a very subtle word.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I really don't know why I did that though. probably I was feeling a little, I thought it might sound very, arrogant, or I don't know. I really don't know. We are all stuck with certain, things, opinions,
Yeah.
prejudices. So
Certain beliefs.
now, yeah, beliefs, correct. Now I write very clearly, mine is a storytelling company, storytelling brand. It's registered, trademarked, everything goes as per the thing, I follow all those formalities and all of that. Yeah, that's one thing. And yeah, I keep those things in mind. Besides that, when you use the social media extensively, I think you should start hashtagging. You should not start. You should hashtag your brand, tag your brand. These are small things, but give that due importance is what I would say. These things I understood. Yeah, as Ganesh reminded me, yeah, there are certain issues with, there is a little bit of brand infringement and all of that. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to deal it the proper way, the legal way, but a lot more on my work these days.
Do you have a team, or do you plan to hire someone, form a small team?
This is another question which is many have asked. How I have managed all these years is I kind of collaborate with people. See, if I want a drummer on board, I'm going to do a little bit of musical storytelling, so I just collaborate. And, it's a very informal collaboration. We work together. We like each other's work, that kind of a thing. So that's how I've managed. If you ask me now, right now, I'm not thinking of a team. But to kind of take things, to have a wider reach, yeah, I think I do have a plan like that in future.
So, right. So, quick answer. Huh? What is the essence of Storypur?
Storypur.
The soul, the kernel, the essence of Storypur.
Connecting with people through stories. Community building, yeah, and reminding people, community building through stories. That's what I've written also. I mean, we have everything, we know everything. There's some people who are there to remind you of certain things, like the grandmother in your family. So just like that, I am there to just remind small things. So it's more like that.
Hopefully in as endearing a fashion as your grandma would do.
Thank you. So it's like that.
All right. So I'm going to throw this open to the floor. Yeah. Throw the floor open to questions. Invite people here to ask whatever they want to ask. Priya, please, you can unmute yourselves and, as usual, just come forth with questions.
Yeah, thanks, Ganesh and Priya, for a very interesting conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Over to the audience for their comments, queries, feedback. Yes,
Kani. Boliye.
Okay. This was very wonderful to be with you. I invited 4 of our storytellers of Bhopal, but for whatever reason, they did not come, though they all confirmed that they would attend because they, being storytellers, are interested. They have drafted me into their tribe, though I have not done anything with them. But I want to tell you a little story. Okay. I was 8 years old. I was in New York City, and I told the story of Ganesh on NBC, extempore. And the exciting part of that storytelling was they had a huge white board kind of thing. And they had drawn out the whole scenery. And then with magnets, they were moving the characters. And I was telling the story. And the story was how Ganesh has a elephant head. And I told the same story in the school assembly. And I think storytelling is going to become a very big part of people's lives because storytelling is very popular, because children are encouraged to tell stories in school. There's a story competition in every school I know in class 1 and class 2. And I've written many of those stories. And I actually didn't write them. I told them to my daughter. And then somebody wanted a story because I knew the teacher. So, storytelling is eminently important and it can change the world. I beg to differ with Ganesh when you said that, okay, we're doing something, you're not changing the world, you're doing something in a more focused manner. You're doing something in a focused manner that will change the world, because stories reflect ideas and ideas change the world. And how do you get ideas to people? You prepare public opinion. So, Priya, I'm thrilled to meet you. And I don't know whether I'll ever tell any stories anywhere, but I thoroughly bore the people of the ICF every time there's an seminar because I have something to say.
No. But you just told us a story of how you told the story of Ganesha. So that was your story to us.
Yes.
You did tell us a story.
Yes. I was jumping out of my seat to tell you this story.
Good. I'm so glad I got to hear.
I told the story once in a school, and they sent me a check for 5,000 rupees. And this was in 2017.
Good.
It was without any preparation. They just said, can you tell our children a story? So I know it is a profession. It's not one that I would take up. I am conscious of the fact that they don't want Nani ki kahani anymore. They like young people better. Maybe I'm just lazy,
So I want to quickly butt in here and ask Priya this question. Is that true?
Oh,
I don't think that's true, Ganesh. I don't think that's
true. Come on.
I think you're just putting down yourself in your own generation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
I think you should give it a serious thought, a sincere shot.
Yeah, meaning I honestly believe, and Priya, just tell me whatever you think about this. I think there is space, there is room for all kinds of storytellers. It doesn't mean that there is ageism here, ki above 45 or 55.
There's no ageism. I'm being lazy, no.
I'm sorry. I made the mistake of taking you a little bit too seriously. Sorry.
Don't take me seriously.
And you framed it as a nice question for me.
And that story was serious.
It was good.
It happened. It's historical.
Yeah.
You should try more of storytelling. You should.
Acha, I want to clarify something to you, Ganesh. When I said I didn't mean it doesn't have the power to change public opinion. Now, this I must clarify. I don't want to let this go. I meant that she's taking it in batches of 10 at a time rather than changing the world with one broad stroke.
But that's how you change the world, no?
Correct.
Because when you talk to a huge audience, you know this better than anyone else. What percentage of audience takes anything home?
Absolutely.
The bigger the number.
I would actually be far happier, and Priya said this to me when we spoke over the phone. I'm just echoing that sentiment that I would be far happier if there are only 5 people in the room, and those 5 are engaged, they're interested, and they walk back with something.
Absolutely. No, I was just pulling your leg. I like it. I'm wicked, no?
Totally. You just need a broom, that's all.
Yes, when I picked up a broom once to clean the house, my daughter said, "Where are you going, mommy?"
Yes. Any other questions? Anybody else wants to say something, ask something?
Yeah, hello. Denise just told another story about her laziness, and then she may tell some more stories about her laziness.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Arundhati, you started saying something?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Priya.
Hi, Arundhati.
Yeah, okay. I have 3 questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, can you give me a few tips on how to engage children, especially in the age group of 6 to 9 in stories? How to, tell stories to them? Because I'm also an author and I don't do professional storytelling, but I used to volunteer at a non-profit which works with children. So I want to know more about that. And about NIFT that you teach there, is it a full-time course or how is it done? I want to know about that.
Okay.
And third is, I did not understand exactly how do you work with corporates in storytelling?
All right. Okay. So, yeah, sure. Thank you, Arundhati, for asking these 3 questions. Question number 1, how do I keep the children of 6 to 9 years old ages engaged? Okay. One thing is, first and foremost, you can take few props Don't take too many, okay? Because we don't want to come in the way of their creativity, just to get things initiated, okay? When you start a story, I would say if you're going to be regularly going to that place, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, right? Have a certain set pattern. Every time, like for example, just give me a minute.
Sure.
So every time I start a story, say I just picked it up randomly, I will ring a bell. So that is the cue that the story time is starting. Or you have a corner in that place. So every time I sit over here, we are going to have story time. So children get habituated to things like this. These things really work. Okay, have a corner, sing a particular song. So this is my story time song. So you're basically prepping them for the story that's going to happen. So when that is set, you have them with you. Start off with your story, okay? If you're going to read it from a book, make sure you work with your voice a little bit. A monster voice, lion. So they love. And you know what? Do not stop the children. When you're going to do that, they would also want to do all that. So give them the space. So if you want to roar like a lion, you can roar like the lion. Things like that. Okay, so they kind of start enjoying it a lot. And, make use of, if you are sitting in a physical space, moving around, children love to move around. Do not stop them. They're jumping or running around. Just say that, okay, there was a mouse in the story and the mouse kind of ran like this. So the whole class will run. Be ready for that. Yeah. But then say after running, you have to come back and sit down. So it's a lot of give and take. When you give them that space and you're not just sitting and you're just telling once upon a time, this kind of thing, they are buying the story from you, literally taking the story from you. So they are also happy. And the next time they look forward to your bell, your song. As you started, you have a closure also. Make sure you ring the bell 3 times, 4 times. That means it's the end. So basically setting a certain rhythm, So that works with this age group. Okay. Give them the freedom to talk and everything, like that. So that's very little. Actually, you can explore a lot in that with that age group. The next question is, what do I do with the NIFT students? Okay, this is my 4th batch that will be joining me. It is not a course. It is part of their course, which they are doing, fashion technology, fashion design. One subject, the general elective subject or the optional subject. If you want, you can choose. It is that subject, is storytelling. So what do I do? So I talk to them about the basics of storytelling. What is a story? How effectively you can tell a story using your voice, your body, and all of that. Then I narrow it down to their curriculum or their space of work. How can you use storytelling when you do a presentation, when you present a design, or when you plan an event, things like that. So this is a 35 hours, sometimes 28 hours for certain groups. Sometimes it's 35 hours. It's all spread out over a period of 2 months. This is what I do for them. And the third question is
corporates. Organizational storytelling for corporates.
Right. So again, the fundamental is going to be basically the same. So we talk about why we need to tell stories, why it's going to help us, the why of it. How we tell, that is going to come in, right? And then how do we what kind of stories we tell? Well, I told you about brand culture and all that. Whether your brand stands for, like, for example, Ganesh asked me, what does Storypur stand for? The last thing. So if your brand stands for integrity or you want on-time service, then you need to be telling stories like that. Once it was raining heavily, but so-and-so, Mr. Varun, despite not getting affected by the rain, he just went and delivered so-and-so at this particular time. So you tell it as a story for your other employees to listen to. Now that will be part of your story bank, your collection of stories. So how do we have stories of real life people in your organization? You collect stories. You basically create a culture, a vibe, this is what we all stand for. This is why we are working together. That kind of a mood you create. And different scenarios will happen in your company. You need to introduce yourself. You have only 2 minutes. How are you going to use the storytelling parameters to
like pitching?
Like pitching. Yeah.
Okay.
How will you introduce your brand, your product? We extensively work on that. So basically all these things put together. We talk about a little bit of product launches, kind of understand things, stuff like that, case studies.
Yeah. So do you know of any good storytelling like courses for children? I mean, for storytelling to children, I mean. Any other courses? Yeah.
There are quite a lot happening. I do conduct workshops. You can stay tuned. I do it for teachers and schools. You can just follow my page and then you can attend these workshops.
I think you're not on LinkedIn, right? I could not find
you on LinkedIn. I'm not
I found you on Facebook, I think, not on LinkedIn. Yeah, you're on Facebook. Okay.
So that's
so Priya, what kind of workshops are these? Give us some more details. I mean, is it for anybody and everybody who wants to become a storyteller? Is that the intent?
Basically, you know what? I do not work a lot with mixed age group because each one's requirement is different.
Yeah, right.
As an educator, you using storytelling in your school is different from me using storyteller as a manager of a company. So then it becomes too basic. So I have to kind of fine tune it. So generally, I have workshops like this for teachers and educators, which I conduct. And as of now, I have not done anything for the other group people because organizations call me, I go there and I do it. So my needs are met. Probably in future, I'll plan something like that. Different professionals, different workshops. Yeah.
Yes. Divya, Neeraj, Jyotirmoy, Charul.
Yeah, Priya, I wanted to check if you have tried your hand at recording audiobooks. Because your style of telling stories is quite interesting. That takes me into the audiobook I heard too. That was by Robin Sharma, who is the author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And he told the story the way you are telling it. So I can see you in that field also.
Thank you so much, Divya. Actually, I've done voiceovers, but I have not recorded an audiobook so far. Looking forward to it. Let me see if it happens. I mean, I'll be glad. Thanks.
All the best for that.
Thank you so much, Divya. Best wishes to you too.
Thank you.
Okay, so because other questions aren't immediately forthcoming, I have a request, Priya. Why don't you tell us a story now? A cutie little story.
Cutie little story. Okay, there's one story I told you, right? I'm very much like, I don't want to kind of think too much and get the appropriate story. The one story which is coming because of so many festivities we have lined up the next few months is the Krishna story. Okay. So no, not Janmashtami, Krishna story. So it was a dark forest and Krishna and Balram, the two little kids, were on their way back home. Yashoda Ma was waiting for them, but they had to cross that forest, okay? And it was nighttime. Both the kids were walking on the leaves, and the rustling sound of the leaves was actually little, bothering them. But Krishna put on a very bold face, but Balram was visibly scared. Now, Krishna said, see, we're really tired and we are hungry also. You know what, Balram, we'll take rest here. Okay, we'll stay here for tonight and tomorrow we'll go back and we'll explain everything to Yashoda Ma. Okay. And Balram said, okay, Krishna, but the whole place looks so scary here. Krishna said, don't worry, Balram. You know what, from now onwards, from now till midnight, you stay guard. From midnight till morning, I will stay guard. Okay, nothing will happen to us. Balram nodded and Krishna went to sleep under the huge banyan tree. There was silence everywhere. Balram was watching over. I mean, nothing could escape his watchful eyes. Okay, I think I too should take some rest. Balram decided to sit down when he heard a growl. And Balram was scared. But who is it? He asked, but there was no reply. Who is it? Once again, he asked a little loudly, mustering his courage. He walked a little forward and he heard the growl again. Terrified, but not giving up, he looked right there. He saw a monster, a Rakshasa. And Balram said, "Oh, who are you? Why have you come here?" And he started trembling with fear. And the monster grew in size. Balram was even more scared, and he started trembling more with fear. The monster grew bigger in size. Balram was so very scared that he held on to the tree, okay, because he was about to collapse. It was such a horrific sight, and the monster grew even more big. Balram fell down unconscious. Screaming, before he fell down, he screamed, "Krishna, Krishna." Krishna woke up. "Oh, I think it's time for me to watch over." And Krishna saw Balram on the ground, and Krishna thought Balram was actually asleep. Okay, it's my chance to watch now. So Krishna walked from this side to that side, this side to that side. The same thing happened. It was the same crowd. Krishna just walked in front and he said, "Who are you?" And the monster started shrinking. "Hello, I'm asking you, who are you?" The monster started shrinking in size. "Excuse me, who are you? What do you want?" The monster shrunk. It was almost 2 inches. Spoiled my mood, little monster. He picked up the little monster. He put it in his pocket. The next morning, sunshine, and Balram woke up. "Krishna, you know what happened? Yesterday there was a monster, and I was so scared, and I was really trembling, and the monster grew and big in size." "Oh, I too saw a monster, and I kept asking him questions, and he started shrinking. Is it the same monster?" I showed the same monster. How many times have we felt like this before, my dear friends? Yeah, let's not feed our inner fears. Let's face them. And that's what Krishna and Balram understood at that time. And here's the story just for all of us.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Lovely, wonderful.
Thank you so much. Super.
Thank you.
You really took us into that forest now.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's about it. So if you ask me for a difference between that, performance and the formal kind, you can cut off the sound. You just take a call. That's what I'm telling you.
Correct.
You just take a call. What you want to add, what you want to delete. Do you want to play with words? Do you want to bring in some scenario in your office? Some people are refusing to come out of their comfort zone. You can end it with that. So everything is left up to you. There is definitely no rule book, So that's how it is, as far as I've understood.
Super.
Thank you, everyone.
Any more questions or thoughts? Otherwise, we will, I think, wrap up.
Yes, Ganesh, I think you saved the best part towards the last.
For the end.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my card. I had a secret card. I had kept it on my sleeve.
Divya mentioned about audiobooks, and after this performance, I think Priya should definitely give it a shot.
I'll try.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for coming over. And I think it's really very nice, insightful, engaging. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thanks, everyone.
Neeraj wants to ask a query. Yes, Neeraj?
Yes.
Yeah, am I audible?
Hello? Yes.
Cool. I have two questions. One is what is the difference, would you say, between written fiction and telling a story, and how would one, if we have to adapt any classics or something into storytelling, how would we go about doing that? How would we adapt a written word into story? And my second question is, we already have something called art therapy, where fine art and similar forms of arts are used in a therapeutic form. So do you think that storytelling can also be adapted into some form of therapy? Because fiction for many has always been, written fiction has for a lot of people has been a form of mental health support. So is there a way of adapting storytelling into mental health?
Right. Thank you, Sir Neeraj, for your questions. First, question number one, if you want to take a book and you want to adapt it and tell it as a story, basic thing, everyone does this. You need to get the authorization. You need to ask the author, especially if it's going on social media because of copyrights issue. That's a basic thing. Okay. You get it, and then you're going to work on it. You're going to adapt it. Now, adapt which means you can tweak it the way you want. I mean, you can add more, you can cut down the descriptive part, you can dramatize it, you can act it out. That's the meaning of adaptation, right? So you can do that many of them do it the way they want to suit their style, keeping their audiences in mind. Especially a lot of classics now are being done. So you can take a small portion of that and script it accordingly, that particular portion, a particular scene that comes in a very huge book, in an epic. Take that particular portion, script it, and then deliver it according to your audience. That's one thing. So, and that really works, actually speaking. A lot of historical ones and all of that. Second thing is, yeah, you actually had the answer to the question, the second one. Art therapy. So storytelling has always been therapeutic. Books are therapeutic, the written form. So the telling one, the oral one also has been therapeutic, is always therapeutic. We have a lot of adult storytelling groups, for seniors, where a lot of these things are thrashed out, a lot of issues, melancholy, lot of things which are exactly meant for the adult setup, the adult scenarios. So, yeah, I hope. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, themes like grief are also, dealt with, and it's quite a powerful way of dealing with emotional status and
loss and all of that.
Correct.
Thank you. I saw that message. Dell is sending me that message.
And that is Ganesh.
That she's just Ganesh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, then. Are we done?
Yeah,
any more last thoughts, questions? No, otherwise we'll close this. Yeah, I think Vivek, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Ganesh, thanks Priya, and just an add-on to the audio part. Maybe you can explore Clubhouse if you haven't done it already.
Oh, I haven't. I will do so.
Yeah. All the best for your future endeavors. Thanks everyone. Thanks all the participants. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Priya. Thanks again, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being such wonderful listeners.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ganesh.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye. Bye.